A young woman, 22 years old, a camera always nearby, a van converted into a home on wheels, a love story posted in real time, sunsets over national parks, hiking trails, laughter behind a lens. She was building something, a blog, a life, a following. She had dreams that were just beginning to take shape. And then one day, she was simply gone. Not gone in the way people disappear quietly, without a trace, without anyone noticing. No. This disappearance happened in front of thousands of people who had been watching, liking, commenting, following along on her journey for months. And yet, no one realized it at first. That's what makes this case unlike anything most people had ever seen before. This is not a story about a perfect life. It is a story about a real person, someone who loved yoga, vegetables, art, and adventure. Someone who had a social media page where she shared the highs of life on the open road. But behind every carefully framed photo, something was unfolding that the camera didn't capture. And by the time the world started paying attention, it was already too late. We're going to walk through every detail, every witness account, every documented timeline, every question investigators had to answer. Because understanding what happened requires understanding everything that came before. Let's start at the beginning. Gabrielle Venora Petito was born on March 19, 1999, in Blue Point, New York, a quiet community on Long Island, the kind of place where you know your neighbors, where life moves at a manageable pace. She grew up with 6 younger siblings and half-siblings. By most accounts, she was the kind of person who remembered birthdays, who showed up for people, someone with a big heart in a small town. In 2013, when Gabby was just 14 years old, she and her stepbrothers appeared in a music video created to raise awareness about gun violence, a response to the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. It was a small act, but it said something about who she was. She cared. She wanted to do something meaningful. She graduated from Bayport Blue Point High School in Bayport, New York, in 2017. It was there, in the hallways of an ordinary high school, that she first met a young man named Brian Laundrie. After graduation, Gabby moved to Carolina Beach, North Carolina, where she spent about a year and a half working as a hostess and in a restaurant kitchen. She applied to community college. She was figuring things out, the way most people in their late teens are. And then, in March of 2019, her path changed. Gabby began dating Brian Laundrie in March 2019. She moved in with him and his parents in Northport, Florida, a city on the Gulf Coast. The two of them worked together at a local public supermarket. She worked in the pharmacy department, he was in groceries. By most public appearances, they seemed like a typical young couple. They shared interests, they spent time together. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, they both left their jobs. But before the pandemic changed everything, the couple had already begun exploring the country together. In late 2019 and early 2020, they took a long cross-country drive from New York all the way to California, visiting Las Vegas, Yosemite National Park, Pismo Beach, and stops in between. They were falling in love with the road. In July 2020, Brian proposed. Gabby said yes. They were engaged. That December 2020, Gabby made a decision that would define the next phase of her life. She purchased a 2012 Ford Transit Connect van, which had been converted into a camper. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a plan, a direction, a vision for a different kind of life. She wanted to document their travels. She had a YouTube channel, an Instagram account. She described her interests as, and I'm paraphrasing from her own words, art, yoga, and veggies. She was building something real. To save money for the upcoming trip, Gabby took on long weeks at Taco Bell, reportedly working around 50 hours a week, while also working as a nutritionist. Brian took a position at a local organic juice bar. They were saving, planning, looking ahead. By the summer of 2021, they were ready. Or at least, that's how it looked from the outside. On June 17, 2021, Gabby and Brian traveled to her hometown of Blue Point to attend her younger brother's graduation ceremony. A family moment, a normal moment. 16 days later, on July 2nd, 2021, they left Blue Point in the white Ford Transit Connect and headed west. The trip was planned to last 4 months. In the weeks that followed, they visited Monument Rocks in Kansas, Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve in Colorado, Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah, Mystic Hot Springs, Canyonlands National Park. Gabby was posting, documenting, sharing. For anyone following along, it looked like a dream. 2 young people living freely on America's most beautiful back roads. The posts were bright, the captions were hopeful, the comments were filled with admiration. But here's something that those watching the social media feed could not have known. The camera only ever shows what someone wants to show. It was August 12th, 2021. The couple was in Moab, Utah, a city known for its stunning red rock landscapes and outdoor activities. On that afternoon, someone called 911. A witness had seen a couple engaged in what appeared to be a physical altercation outside the Moonflower Community Cooperative. According to the caller, as documented in official police records, they witnessed a man strike a woman, after which both individuals ran along the sidewalk before the man appeared to strike her again. The couple then drove off together. A second witness described the scene to arriving officers as an aggressive exchange, noting that the woman appeared to strike the man in the arm and that the man seemed to be attempting to leave, possibly taking her phone with him. Before they drove away, according to this witness, the woman climbed into the driver's seat, then moved to the passenger side, and asked him, according to police records, quote, "Why do you have to be so mean?" Officers from the Moab City Police Department identified the van driving erratically near the entrance to Arches National Park and conducted a traffic stop. When they approached, they found Gabby Petito in the passenger seat, visibly distressed according to the body camera footage later released to the public. She told the officers about stress, about OCD, about working hard on her blog, about fighting that morning. According to the body camera footage, she was tearful throughout the interaction. She didn't stop crying, according to the officer's written report, from the moment they made contact. When the officer pointed out visible marks on her arm and face and encouraged her to be honest, she said that he had grabbed her face, which, according to police documents, had caused a visible injury. Brian Laundrie, speaking separately to officers, described trying to create space during an argument. He acknowledged, according to police records, that he shouldn't have pushed her. Here is what police determined that day. Neither Gabby nor Brian wanted to press charges. The incident was officially documented as a mental health crisis, not as a domestic violence situation, which would have mandated an arrest under applicable policy. The couple was separated for the night. Laundrie was arranged to stay at a local motel. Gabby stayed with the van. And then, the next morning, they continued the trip. The Moab City Police Department later opened an internal investigation into whether its officers had followed proper protocols during that interaction. The department's chief of police took a leave of absence during the review. But all of that came later. At the time, the world didn't know any of this had happened. Because on social media, the posts kept coming, the smiles kept appearing, the journey continued. 5 days after the incident in Moab, on August 17, 2021, something unusual happened. Brian Laundrie boarded a flight from Salt Lake City to Tampa, Florida. Alone. Gabby did not go with him. According to later statements from the Laundrie family's attorney, Brian made the trip to retrieve some personal items and to close a storage unit. A practical decision, it was explained, made because the couple was considering extending their road trip and wanted to save money. Gabby, meanwhile, stayed behind. According to hotel staff, later interviewed by investigators, she spent several days at a Fairfield Inn and Suites near the Salt Lake City International Airport. She checked out on August 24th. Brian returned to rejoin her on August 23rd. And the trip continued. Now, at this point in our timeline, it's important to understand what the outside world was seeing. A young couple on a road trip posting photos, living their best life. Nothing from the outside appeared to be wrong. But investigators, looking back at this timeline later, would note a number of things that didn't quite add up. We'll get to those details. But first, we need to follow Gabby to her final documented days. On August 25th, 2021, Gabby Petito's mother spoke with her daughter by phone. According to later statements, Gabby told her mother they were traveling from Utah toward Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. A standard update, a normal call. That same day, August 25th, the final post was made on Gabby's Instagram account. It showed photos of her standing in front of a butterfly mural outside a restaurant in Ogden, Utah. She looked happy, relaxed, present. That would be the last post. 2 days later, August 27th, 2021, a witness reported seeing Gabby and Brian at the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. According to this witness, Laundrie was behaving aggressively, appearing to have an argument with restaurant staff, including the manager, the waitress, and the hostess. The argument, per the witness account, appeared to involve a dispute about money. The witness later saw Gabby return to the restaurant alone, apologizing to staff for his behavior. Restaurant employees later confirmed via social media that the couple had indeed been there that day. Shortly after, that same afternoon, surveillance cameras at a Whole Foods store in Jackson, Wyoming, captured the couple arriving in the parking lot at 2:11 p.m. They entered the store at 2:14 p.m. They left at 2:30 p.m. They sat in the van for approximately 20 minutes. At 2:56 p.m., according to investigators, they drove north, joining Highway 89, the road toward Bridger Teton National Forest. That security footage from that Whole Foods parking lot would later be confirmed by investigators as the last recorded image of Gabby Petito alive. She was 22 years old. Also on August 27th, a text message was sent from Gabby's phone to her mother. It read, according to investigators, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." At first glance, that might sound ordinary, a request for help, a family concern. But Gabby's mother said something that stopped investigators in their tracks. Stan, she explained, was Gabby's grandfather, and Gabby never, according to her mother, referred to him by his first name, not once. That detail would stay with investigators. There was more. On August 30th, another text was sent from Gabby's phone to her mother. This one simply said, "No service in Yosemite." Gabby's mother later stated, clearly and on record, that she did not believe that message was sent by her daughter. Additional text messages were also sent between Gabby's phone and Brian's phone during this same period, and a transaction of $700 was made from Gabby's account, with a message that said, "Goodbye to Brian." According to investigators, these activities are believed to have been conducted by Laundrie himself, possibly in an attempt to create the appearance of normalcy. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. At this point in the timeline, late August 2021, Gabby's family didn't know any of this yet. They were waiting to hear from her, thinking she was somewhere in Wyoming, somewhere without cell service maybe. And meanwhile, something else was happening. Something that would bring this entire situation to a very different point. On September 1st, 2021, Brian Laundrie returned to his parents' home in Northport, Florida. In the white Ford Transit Connect van. Alone. Gabby was not with him. She was not mentioned publicly. And according to investigators and statements that would emerge later, no one outside the family seemed to immediately ask why. 5 days after he arrived home, on September 6th and 7th, Brian and his parents went on a camping trip together at Fort DeSoto Park in Pinellas County, Florida. A family outing, apparently normal. Meanwhile, Gabby's family, thousands of miles away in New York, was growing increasingly concerned. They hadn't heard from her. They weren't getting responses. Days were passing. Something didn't feel right. On September 11, 2021, nearly 2 weeks after the last confirmed sighting of Gabby Petito, her mother filed a missing person report. It had been weeks since anyone outside the Laundrie family had confirmed seeing or speaking to her. 4 days after the report was filed, Brian Laundrie was named a person of interest in her disappearance. His parents hired a lawyer, and based on that lawyer's advice, they said nothing. They did not speak to investigators. They did not speak to the media. They did not speak to Gabby's family. The silence from the Laundrie household became its own kind of signal. Police began surveillance of the Laundrie home. On September 13th, they observed Brian leave. 2 days later, they saw a car return and believed, at the time, that the person who got out of the vehicle and entered the home was Brian. It was not. Investigators later confirmed that they had, in fact, mistaken Brian's mother for Brian himself on September 15th. This became one of the most significant investigative errors of the entire case. On September 16th, Northport Police Chief Todd Garrison told reporters, and I want to be precise about the documented language here, that he knew where Brian Laundrie was. He was wrong. Because on September 17th, Brian Laundrie's parents reported him missing. They said they hadn't seen him since September 13th. The person of interest in a missing woman's case had now, himself, disappeared. After obtaining search warrants, investigators seized significant items from the Laundrie family home in Northport, including the white Ford Transit Connect van, an external hard drive, and the family's Ford Mustang. A massive search effort began for Brian Laundrie, centered on the T. Mabry Carlton Reserve in Sarasota County, Florida, and the adjacent Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park. These were areas he had reportedly frequented. And simultaneously, hundreds of miles to the north, investigators had begun focusing their attention on a location in Wyoming, a place called the Spread Creek Dispersed Camping Area in Bridger-Teton National Forest. Because witness accounts, several of them documented and corroborated, had placed Laundrie and the white van in that exact area on and around August 27th. One witness had even posted a video on TikTok about what they had observed. An FBI agent later told that witness, according to documented accounts, that their information had helped direct investigators to the right location. Another set of witnesses captured dashcam footage of a white van matching the description of the Transit Connect in the same general area on the evening of August 27th. And then there were the hitchhiking accounts. According to one documented account, on August 29th, 2 days after Gabby was last seen on camera, a woman said she and her boyfriend gave a man a lift from an area near Coulter Bay Village after seeing him hitchhiking alone. The man, per this witness, was later identified as Brian Laundrie. The witness said Laundrie became agitated when he realized they were heading to Jackson Hole rather than Jackson, Wyoming. He got out of the vehicle near the Jackson Lake Dam, about 30 minutes and roughly 10 miles into the ride. He had offered $200 for the ride, and despite claiming to have been camping for days, he did not appear, according to the witness, to be particularly dirty. That detail struck her as unusual. A second witness stated she picked Laundrie up from near the Jackson Lake Dam shortly after, at approximately 6:20 or 6:30 p.m., and dropped him at the entrance to the Spread Creek Dispersed Camping Area. She noted that he seemed anxious to get out of the vehicle as they got closer to the campground. He did not want to be taken further than the campground entrance, even though the van was parked several miles in. According to the Laundrie family, Brian called his mother on August 29th. And toward the end of that conversation, his tone, they said, completely changed. Brian's father then called him back. And Brian told his father, according to documented family statements, that, and I want to be careful with this phrasing, Gabby's gone, and that he might need a lawyer. He gave no further details. And then the call stopped. Let's step back from the timeline for a moment. By mid-September 2021, investigators were working with a significant and growing body of evidence. There were witness accounts placing the van in the Bridger Teton area. There were documented inconsistencies in the text messages sent from Gabby's phone after August 27th. There was the financial transaction from her account. There was the dashcam footage, the TikTok video, the hitchhiking accounts. And there was the silence. The complete, deliberate silence from the Laundrie family, their attorney, and from Brian himself, the one person who had last been seen with Gabby Petito. On September 23rd, the United States District Court for the District of Wyoming issued an arrest warrant for Laundrie, not yet connected to Gabby's disappearance directly, but related to his alleged unauthorized use of her debit card. According to court documents, withdrawals of $1,000 or more had been made from her account between August 30th and September 1st, the same period when he had already returned to Florida alone. The FBI collected materials from the Laundrie home to obtain a DNA profile. Investigators were closing in on something, but the full picture had not yet come into focus publicly. And then, on September 19, 2021, a discovery was made. The Spread Creek Dispersed Camping Area, Bridger Teton National Forest, Wyoming. It is not far from where witnesses had reported seeing the van, not far from where dashcam footage had captured it, not far from where that TikTok witness had observed unusual behavior in the days leading up to and including August 27th. On September 19th, in that area, investigators made a discovery. A development that would change the direction of the case entirely. The manner of what had happened, the details that investigators were now focused on, would only become fully public over the coming weeks. But the case had taken its darkest turn. At the time, the full meaning of that discovery was not yet publicly understood. Meanwhile, Brian Laundrie was still missing, somewhere in Florida, somewhere that investigators, despite weeks of effort, had not yet located. On October 5th, Brian's sister gave an interview to ABC News in which she publicly encouraged him to surrender to authorities. 2 days later, Brian's father joined investigators in searching the Carlton Reserve and Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park. The search was narrowing. On October 20th, 2021, a month after Gabby's remains were found in Wyoming, something significant was discovered in the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park in Florida. In an area that had until recently been submerged due to flooding, skeletal remains were found, along with some personal belongings. Forensic dentistry was used to confirm the identity. They were the remains of Brian Christopher Laundrie. An autopsy was conducted, but an initial determination of cause of death was not possible given the condition of the remains. The case was referred to a forensic anthropologist for further examination. On November 23, 2021, it was announced that the forensic anthropologist had reached a conclusion. The cause of death was determined to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. We have now reached the point in this documentary where the full findings can be stated clearly, as they were established by investigators, confirmed through forensic examination, and documented in official records. Gabby Petito's death was confirmed by medical examiners as a homicide. The cause of death, as determined by autopsy and presented in official records, was blunt force injuries to the head and neck, combined with manual strangulation. The examination indicated that she had lost her life approximately 3 to 4 weeks before her remains were discovered on September 19th, placing the time of death at around August 27, 2021. That date aligns precisely with the last confirmed sighting of her on surveillance footage at the Whole Foods parking lot in Jackson, Wyoming at 2:56 p.m., when she and Brian drove north toward Bridger Teton National Forest. It aligns with the witness accounts of the van in the Spread Creek area. It aligns with Brian's call to his mother on August 29th and the statement he made to his father that Gabby's gone. Everything converged on that same narrow window of time. Found near Brian Laundrie's skeletal remains in the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park was a notebook. On January 21, 2022, the FBI publicly announced what that notebook contained. An entry in Laundrie's own handwriting in which he admitted to taking Gabby Petito's life. He also admitted, according to the FBI announcement, to having sent text messages from her phone after her death, in a deliberate effort to deceive people into believing she was still alive. The FBI officially named Brian Laundrie as responsible for Gabby Petito's death. The investigation was formally closed. In June 2022, the Laundrie family's attorney released the full text of the notebook entry. In it, Laundrie described a set of circumstances around her final moments. Circumstances that forensic experts and investigators assessed did not align with the physical evidence found during the autopsy. Michael Alcazar, a criminologist from the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, reviewed the entry publicly. His assessment, as documented in reporting at the time, was that the entry appeared to reflect someone who, and I'm paraphrasing his professional opinion, was unwilling to take full responsibility for his actions and was attempting to find justification for what he had done. The notebook entry closed the case legally. But for many, including Gabby's family, no written words could begin to address what had been lost. In the years that followed, several legal proceedings unfolded. In November 2022, a wrongful death claim brought by Gabby Petito's estate against Brian Laundrie's estate resulted in an award of $3 million. However, investigators and legal observers noted that recovery of this amount was considered unlikely given Laundrie's minimal financial assets. Gabby's parents also filed a civil claim against Brian's parents and the family's attorney, alleging that they had caused pain and emotional distress by withholding information about Gabby's death. That case reached a settlement following mediation in February 2024. The terms of the settlement were not publicly disclosed. In November 2022, Gabby's parents filed a $50 million wrongful death lawsuit against the Moab City Police Department related to how the August 12th traffic stop had been handled. The complaint was later amended to include specific allegations about how officers had assessed and responded to the situation that day. In November 2024, a judge dismissed that lawsuit, citing sovereign immunity protections under Utah law, while also acknowledging that the case had met an early standard, suggesting the officer's conduct could have been a contributing factor. Gabby's parents appealed that dismissal to the Utah Supreme Court. The legal process, like grief, moves slowly. In the weeks and months after Gabby Petito's disappearance became public knowledge, the level of attention from media, from the public, from social media was extraordinary. Some of it was driven by the very nature of how Gabby had lived her life publicly, the social media presence, the documentation of the trip, the footage that witnesses had posted, the leaked body camera video from the Moab traffic stop. But the attention also raised uncomfortable questions. Commentators and journalists noted that the coverage Gabby's case received stood in sharp contrast to the coverage, or rather the lack of it, afforded to missing persons cases involving Indigenous people, people of color, and individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Several news outlets, for example, pointed out that approximately 710 Indigenous people had been reported missing in or near the same region of Wyoming over a 10-year period, and that those cases had received only a fraction of the public and media attention given to Gabby's. This disparity, often discussed under the term missing white woman syndrome, became a significant part of the public conversation around this case. Gabby's father, Joseph Petito, has spoken on this topic since. Initially, he expressed some discomfort with the framing, but over time, he acknowledged the disparities it highlights and has used his platform to advocate for greater attention to all missing persons cases, particularly those involving marginalized communities. He has done so through the Gabby Petito Foundation and through projects like the television series Faces of the Missing. That is a complicated legacy, but it is an honest one, and it is worth acknowledging.